We've all done it. We spend 3 weeks tweaking an intro, thousands of dollars on gear we don't know how to use, and hours cutting out every single breath from an audio track. We tell ourselves it's because we care about quality. But what if the obsession with making it perfect is actually the very thing killing your career? I'll find all these videos telling me how to structure my YouTube channel, how to create viral videos and stuff. And every single one of them, the only thing that they teach is how to make your YouTube channel better. And it seems to me like there's so many people just trying to get it figured out that the only people making any money off of them are the ones who are telling you how to do it. It's that whole idea you was talking about. It's like the people who sell the shovels are the ones making the money. The people digging for gold are coming up with nothing. Think about it. The loudest voices in the creative space are often people making money by telling you how to make money. It's a closed loop system. They sell the shovels, you dig an empty hole. If you want to actually survive as an artist, you have to stop buying the tools and start looking at the raw substance of what you're putting into the microphone. It's easy to look at someone running 10 active shows and assume they have a flawless rollout. We look at successful creators and think, of course it worked for them. Look at their studio. But Rory's business didn't start out in a studio. It started in the wreckage of a collapsed life with a piece of gear that most experts would call garbage.
We went through kind of a rough time. I had a couple of times in my life that were a little bit, rough, but went through a particularly rough time after the real estate crash, in 2008, and the economy died and so on and so forth. Lots of reasoning for it. I won't get into that, of course, but everybody, I think, remembers, the economic downturn in that time. Had a very thriving company and held on to it as tightly as we could, lost it all. When I went through one of the lowest points in my whole life like that, I was alone in the way I had to deal with it. And I had to somehow, be strong for my wife and my kids and let them all know everything was going to be okay. But then I still had to go out and figure out how to do that. And, after a whole lot of tough moments is what I'll say, a lot of tough moments. I really wanted to get the message out there that, look, there's a lot of men doing this. There's a lot of husbands and fathers who are going through this type of thing, especially at the time. And I wanted to let them know they weren't alone. And, you try to become the thing that you didn't have in a lot of ways, when you needed it. So the thing I didn't have when I needed it was somebody putting out a hand going, hey, you're not alone. When I first started this stuff, I was working 3 jobs. And that's when I came up with the idea. I was after a really horrible sort of event where I almost wasn't here anymore. I kind of woke up and had a big realization, and I said, if you're going to get out of this, you got to put your head down. You got to go get out of this. So I figured out a way to do it. And for 6 months straight, I worked 3 jobs, and I slept 1 hour a night for 6 months straight. And I knew I could do it for a while. I know I couldn't do it, forever, but I knew I could do it for a while.
On the heels of being hospitalized and almost dying.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? If I'm going out, man, I'm going out swinging, and
right.
So at that point in time, I said, look, I need to get this out. I need to do this. And so it was during that work time when I was literally awake 23 hours a day when I sort of decided to do all this.
This is the exact moment where 90% of creatives quit. You finally build up the courage to share your work, and instead of applause, you follow count drops. You panic. You think you failed. But according to a guy who does this for a living, that drop is actually your first real sign of success.
I mean, that's where we all are, right? Isn't it? As soon as we
Yeah.
start, it's like, hey, I have this audience on social media, for instance, that has followed me through my kids getting their driver's licenses and barbecues and babies and grandkids, right? Puppies and stuff. But now I need to somehow turn this into an audience that cares about what I care about, this new business or this new venture or this new hobby. To start building the audience, the first thing you do is you create good content. You create content that matters. And when I say good content, I don't mean perfectly edited or perfectly polished or it looks great or your lighting's perfect or anything else. I mean, the content matters. It's authentic. It's really you. When you come on and you're like, so hello and welcome to the podcast, and you're totally full of crap. Well, that doesn't help. Nobody wants to hear that. But when you come on and you're like telling your story and you're being open, you're being honest, and you're trying to help somebody, and you're representing yourself saying, look, I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody who went through this. So here's something that I went through. Here's what I learned, and I hope it helps you. I think that starts, building an audience, because there are going to be some people who care. I think strategically speaking, getting into the nitty gritty, you do start with whatever audience you have, for instance, on social media, and you start putting it out there. There will be some folks that are following you now that will care. They know you. They know a little of your story. They're going to want to hear that. They're going to chime in. I had an episode that I did, I think it was episode 9, for my very first podcast, Power Man. And I talked about bullying. And I told a very personal story about how I had been bullied like crazy in school. And I had, my goodness, up until that point, I hadn't received a single DM from anybody about anything. I had a few downloads. It was okay. But nobody had contacted me. I put that out and I had like 60-something DMs the first day that it hit the airwaves. Oh, wow. And it was all people from high school who kind of got this, and they were all like, wait a minute, you? I had no idea you went through this. When did this happen? And they're like, I saw you all the time in the hall. I didn't know you were, that was happening to you. So it was kind of a revelation to a lot of people. But all of a sudden, you find out these people have been watching from the outskirts, and they do care. They do listen, Now, the place people kind of fall apart in terms of creatives trying to build an audience is they start posting about whatever it is they're doing, and then they see their followers drop or their friend count drops, and they're like, oh, I can't do that. I got to stop. That's what's supposed to happen, okay? And that's what people don't understand. That's the very first part of growing your business on social media, for instance, is that your follower count is supposed to go down when you're first doing it. Because you think about who's following you when you're just a regular person. It's anybody who may know you, who may have seen a post from your kid winning the discus throw, might have seen your daughter graduate, a baby, a puppy. And they're like, oh, cool, I'll follow Rory, I know him. But when I start putting the podcast out and they go, oh, I don't want to see about his podcast all the time. Unfollow, right? They're not my audience. They were following me as a friend, but they're not actually my audience for my hobby, hopefully one day my business. And so I want them to drop off. That's not who I want in my follower count. That's not what I'm trying to reach. They're not my target market. So when people start to see the follower count drop in month 1 of getting serious on social media, they panic. And very often they pull back and stop. And that's not what you should be doing. That's when you dig in and go, oh, okay, good. I'm weeding out the people who are not really here for that. They're just here casually. And that's, you move forward with it.
Why haven't you started yet? Why is your script sitting in a drawer or your video stuck in the editing timeline for the 3rd month? Is it because you actually need a better microphone? Or are you just terrified of finding out whether or not you're actually good enough?
Ooh, so many. But one of the biggest ones is buying all the stuff. Oh, they go out and they spend money on the board and the mic and the headphones and the setup and, they buy all kinds of stuff and they're like, oh, I got this and I got that and I have the best editing. And buying all the stuff is a very big mistake. The biggest mistake is editing. And I say this all the time. I don't edit anything. If it's a train wreck, I'll re-record. I'll reschedule if I have to. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
I don't edit at all. And because I can't spend that kind of time to make something perfect. What I think is perfect, someone else isn't going to think is perfect. So who am I doing all the editing for? There are people who go through, I had a student actually who he would record his interview and I didn't know it for a while. I found out down the road that he was spending 3 hours editing that interview because he wanted to get every single or pause or anything and it just making himself insane by doing that.
That was actually, you probably have someone else, but that was me too the first time I ever talked to you. I was spending 3 hours editing every interview that I did, and then you told me, cut it out, man.
Stop editing. Did you stop editing?
I did. I still edit because I repurpose these for YouTube and I do different things that way. But for my podcast, it's like, I'm gonna listen to Rory. I'm going to stop spending so much time making the sound perfect. And so, yeah, I have taken your advice on that.
I love that. You just made my day. Thank you for telling me that. I hope that made your life a little bit better. If you're spending more than 15 minutes editing, just stop. Just stop. Because who are you editing for? And there are people who just, I do all this editing and I have this editor that I pay for and I do, just record and put it out.
Now I need to figure out how to apply that to YouTube too. So
YouTube. Oh, I tell you what, video editing is even worse than audio editing.
I know.
Because you got to match the picture and the mouth and everything else. Oh my gosh. I mean, YouTube honestly should just be natural also.
Yeah.
Same thing, man. Just throw it out there. Record, post. Done.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. What has been the hardest part about content creation for you, or at least for podcasting?
For me personally, the hardest part about content creation is remembering to put out what the listeners or the viewers, right, the audience wants to see, needs to see, as opposed to what I really feel like I want to put out. There are times when I'll be like, man, I found this wolf, thing where he's just mad and he's like growling, and that might be how I'm feeling at that moment, like a growling wolf.
Uh-huh.
And I'll just be like, man, I'm putting that out. And I'm like, wait. This is a business. That's not what my people that are listening to my podcast need to hear, is that I feel like I want to go devour the world because I'm mad right now. So understanding that when you do post and you have a podcast, when you're doing it as a business, all you're posting is an extension of that. It's an extension of you. It's an extension of the podcast. You have to post like it's a business. You have to create content like it's a business. And so you're looking at who's my target market with everything that you put out there. And that's still hard even today. I'll see something cute and want to put it out. And I'm like, my kids will love this. So I'll send it to them in a DM.
Right.
Okay. But that doesn't mean I'm going to put it out as advertisement for, Wake Up the Lions podcast or something.
Right.
Right. That's tough. But
you got to know your audience.
100%.
All right. So what are the two most important pieces of advice you would suggest to a new creative to basically help them avoid the struggling artist trap?
Any creative, or are we talking podcasting, or are we?
It could be any.
Any creative?
Yeah, because your experience, yes, we're talking a lot about podcasting right now, but there's a lot of people who maybe podcasting isn't for them, or maybe you have some thoughts or insights that will just help them. This is really just based on your experience, your life. How would you say your kid wanted to be some kind of a creative, whether it was using podcasts to leverage that or not? What would your advice be to them?
Great. I appreciate the clarification, and 100%. Looking at it from the scope of, all creatives, whether it's authors or anybody out there, for sure. Before you start, it isn't just know your why, because that's what everybody always wants to say. And that's one of the most overused things in the world.
Right.
It's write down your why, okay? Get clear on your why and write it down and be accountable to it, okay? Because that's why you want to remember your why. Why are you doing it in the first place? And you know what? If you're doing it to try to make money, just write that down. I'm doing this because it might be a great way to make some extra money. Nobody cares. Nobody gets to judge you for what you write down right there. That's a huge thing for people, is to not be clear on what they're trying to do. People go into it and they end up very quickly behaving as if, well, what is everybody else going to approve of me doing this? Right? What's going to make, the person looking at this, or my mom or my wife, or what are they going to approve of? What answer are they going to be okay with? Why are you doing it? For real, why are you doing it? And then structure it that way. So I think that's a piece of advice number one, is to do that. Number two is keep it simple, stupid. And I really believe in that, because the first thing we're going to do is we're going to complicate. All right. A big trap that we all fall into in any of these things is, well, I'll do that, but first I got to do this. And I'll get that done. But, first I got to get this, or I got to buy that. I got to set this up. Well, I got to go get my LLC made and my business cards all set before I do this. And you haven't written a word or recorded a word or posted a thing. That simply becomes a tool for procrastination. That's how our insecurity gets to manifest, is in us worrying about all of the other nonsense. If you want to write a book, sit down, pick up a pen, and write. If you want to do a podcast, sit down, grab the mic or your phone or whatever, and talk. Do the thing. and stop worrying about all the other stuff that has to come first or needs to happen and everything else. Keep it simple and put it out there.
What lesson in your journey has meant the most to you?
Wow. That finally realizing that I matter. Finally realizing that I actually do have value. I'm a guy who just treated himself like he didn't have any. I always put everybody else ahead of me. I always took care of everybody else first. I still do that, but I did it before by telling myself that I wasn't worth, doing anything for me. I do it now going, look, I know I have value, but I'm still taking care of everybody else first. But then when I'm done, I'm going to make sure I take care of me, and get some things taken care of. That not understanding that you have value as a human, as a man, as a father, as a husband, that's the kind of thing that leads to really bad imposter syndrome. That's the kind of thing that leads to an attitude of, it's probably not going to work anyway, so why try? All those horrible things that we have going on in our head. That was huge for me to learn that. And then once it's out there a little bit, you can go, do I want to do this better? Can I do this better? Do I want to spend a little money on this? Or is this really not what I had in mind?
At the end of the day, you can keep buying the shovels or keep spending hours cutting out every breath from your tracks, tweaking your thumbnails, or waiting until the timing is perfect to launch your project. But eventually, you have to look in the mirror and admit that the polish is just a shield to hide behind. Stop editing and waiting. Just do the work. If you're a writer, a filmmaker, a podcaster, or any creative who is tired of falling into the struggling artist trap, that is exactly what I'm trying to show you how not to do. Hit subscribe if you want to stop overcomplicating your craft and start actually finishing your projects. If you want to see exactly how this perfectionist trap sneaks into your daily routine without you realizing it, watch this next video right here. Now go pick up the pen, grab the mic, and put something out there. I'll see you in the next video.